Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I brought another guest, Mary Grygleski. And today, I'm so happy you came here. We first met at AI, Arc of AI in
Yeah,
Austin.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
I will
Still
introduce.
wearing the T-shirt. Arc of AI.
I didn't know.
I
I
want
love.
to. Yeah, I want to also pay respect to Dr. Van Cat, right? So I'm like, okay, I gotta do some advertisement for him. Such a
I
great
actually
conference.
did last time when I was interviewing him. I did Arc of AI.
Yeah,
Shared, yeah, but this time
yeah,
I didn't.
wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. More people advertise for him. It's such a great conference. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry, you were doing the intro. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I will let you introduce, then I will start asking questions, elaborate.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so thank you. First of all, thank you very much to Yodit. We met at Arc of AI in Austin, Texas, back in April. Yeah, so I can't believe it's almost 2 months ago.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, so okay, so I started off as a software engineer, many years ago. But anyway, I'm still excited, learning software. There's just so many new things, right? Especially now with AI. Anyway, so my background is software engineer. I was doing it for over 25. When I kind of count, really software engineer, develop products and design, not like just going in for IT. You're fixing things, because in my initial years was more like you're sustaining engineer. And so anyway, for software development, I started about 25 years ago. Well, now actually it's not 25 years ago. That was in the pre-internet days. So anyway, so that was me, and I slowly then get into Java when Java came out in 1996, 97, and I started that time, and I switched to a company called Sybase, and which is now part of SAP. So I was on the development team doing core server development, right? And so that's when I joined them. But I first joined them on another team, and then became the Java J2EE back then. I bet you did. You haven't heard of it. It's actually
I know that.
Enterprise Java, and
Yeah.
now it's called Jakarta. But the very early days, Java Enterprise and Java 2 Enterprise. So I work on the J2EE server for Sybase then, core development team. And then that was I did a few years, and then had a chance to actually move to Chicago because of family. So I moved to Chicago, and since then, I've been in Chicago for over 20 years. And during that time, right, I was like working a bit more for IT companies around here, Chicago Mercantile Exchange and those companies in downtown. And then I was also actually getting a bit felt like I missed something. Now, at that time, right, in the early 2000s, it was still not very popular to have women, not that many women then. They were increasing number, but still, overall, it's not like very kind of conducive, I guess, for women engineer. But anyway, I was just doing the same thing, and I just felt something's missing. And then there was a chance I started going to in 2013. Actually, that's when a lot of the meetup groups started popping up. And I saw, Java. So I thought, okay, great. That's what I was doing. So I started going to Java users group. Little did I know, in about, after I joined for about actually less than 2 years. And then because I was going so much, I enjoy meeting people and purely community meeting people. So then I was asked, why don't you help? So that's how I started helping Chicago Java users group in like around 2015, 16, that time frame. So I've been helping them for over 10 years. And I'm still doing that. And I really like the community thing. And so in the meantime, because of that, it led me to another opportunity, which I never thought of, was actually doing advocacy, developer advocacy work. And that was at IBM. And so I also got that opportunity. I decided to, at that time, it's like, oh, this is great. The job description sounded like what I was doing for the user group, which I really like, the user community, and still being technical in nature. So that's why I started kind of exploring, and I got accepted as a developer advocate. So I became advocate for, since 2018. I'm still kind of feeling like I'm a developer advocate. That's why you see me travel, because that's part of it too. especially for those advocates who like to travel, right, and go speak at conferences, which is something I really like, and meet people, building community. So I'm still doing that. And but in the meantime, too, there's AI and all these things are happening. And I started helping AI Collective, which, to this day, I'm still helping. I've been helping them for about a year and a half now. And I also kind of overlook all of their Western hemisphere, so all of Americas, North America, South America, Central America. But I still travel, so I also have connection to other parts of the world. It's more like I'm a global team. In some sense, it's interesting. It's a volunteer type of role, but I was hoping, if it can be like full time, it was so nice, and it's nonprofit, and so I do feel it's kind of a good cause to promote AI. Really, a grassroots organization trying to have a platform for people to come together and discuss things. So yeah, so that's kind of like the progression of how I came to where I am today. So yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for giving me detailed introduction. So I was seeing actually your profile on LinkedIn. And you start, like you said, you worked at some microsystems, then Sambase is the one you stayed longer, 7 years. So the others, you're transitioning, was it like intentional? Okay, I work here, let me look for some challenge. Then it was kind of leading you to that route. Then you like it at Sambase and you stayed 7 years there. How was the journey?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was, you mean the 7 years experience at, you're talking about my Sybase, right? Yeah. It was at Sybase. Yeah. So that one, because I first joined, interestingly, in Massachusetts, and that time there was interestingly, Sybase is original, is a database company. If folks are familiar with it, right? So they started off in the 1980s in the founder's garage in Berkeley, California, and that's how they started. Really, the early days of like startup company, and that time, everything was new, so they were going after a relational database. In fact, so their stuff, they were kind of doing the same thing that Oracle is today, right? Doing all the database, but they were in the early days. Anyway, so for me, I joined them at first is because they acquired this company called Power Builder. Power Builder is like something similar to Visual Basic. And I think if folks are familiar, Visual Basic, you are just using drag and drop, like graphical user interface type of systems. So Power Builder was very popular in 1995, 96. So I joined them at around that time. And then because I was already at Power Builder, big software company too at the time, based in Massachusetts. And anyway, then Sybase came, this is just how the whole industry is. So you get big fish eating small fish, all of these, they merge and all that. So Sybase came and acquired Power Builder, or more like merge or something, but Sybase became the bigger fish, I suppose. So they acquired Power Builder. So I was I became also part of Sybase. That's how that happened. And then again, got a chance to join their main, because at that time Java was also coming up. Actually, that was an exciting time in terms of computing, because prior to that, as you know, it was before the multi-tier computer, if you know, right? So these days, right, we're talking about, I'm not sure, Yodit, if in your studies, right, computer science, if they still talk about those days, they at first everything was monolith, right? Everything's all processing and all these things, and the processor, daemons, all that. Eventually, they said, well, we need to make it more efficient, so it turns into client and server. So you have server software running, and then you have clients that are there to need services, right? So kind of broadly speaking. So anyway, so that time, what happened is that, companies starting to pay more attention to all of these architecture to do software. And then there are new languages that came out, right? Because prior to that was like Fortran, I'm sure you've heard of the scientific programming, old COBOL, which actually has been a long time, but more verbose and more for business type of thing, is more verbose thing. And then there are also other, APL, for example, more for mathematical calculations and all of these, other older languages. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, now getting into object-oriented, all of these things. So anyway, long story short, what I'm trying to say was that time, a lot of newer kind of ways of doing things came out during that time. And of course, internet was born in the early 1990s too. So internet was there. In fact, in today's world, when we kind of all talking about AI. Back then, when internet first came out, it was sort of the same kind of reaction, though less of a big deal, because it's not like it's going to be autonomous, like AI could take over the world kind of thought. But it's more like, okay, well, internet, what is this? We can connect the different computers, and network is the computer, like Sun Microsystems was talking about that. So it was actually very interesting. So okay, so long story short, so that time, right? So I was kind of get involved. All of these was exciting, and then I said, okay, let me get into Java, get into object-oriented programming. So that's how I got into Java. So that's how it's actually very interesting. And then, of course, I got a chance to work on server development team, and which is really cool. You are seeing how these tools are being written, how you're designing framework kind of level of tooling, which is actually very good. It gave me very solid foundation to understand, how software work, right? Not quite compiler level, but in some sense is on that level. And also you understand Java, which is bytecode, runtime, all of these things. So it's really gave you a good sense of appreciation of how computing has kind of evolved over time. And you understand, it's like understanding how the engine works, right? Because these days, that's what I'm looking at is, while AI seems good, you can describe what you need and everything, it generates everything for you. So then people become like less aware of how actually it works, how inside of something works. So anyway, I forgot what your question was, but I got to this point that's just basically saying, okay, that's how I am.
So that's where you worked the longest in your career, like 7 years. The others are like, so you enjoyed it. The other transitions were intentional, but you answered it. So that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So when you transition from Unix to C, then working in Java and Sun Microsystem in early development part.
That's right.
That's like quite an accomplishment, right? It's part of this big thing in the industry. And so you say you're a Java developer mostly, like your tech stack, because you can say Java, or you work with others too.
Oh, yeah. So I would think, of all the languages, let's say, I've worked with, if you're asking about my skill set, right? I say, I've worked mostly with Java in all my years as software engineer, because I first started more with Fortran and then some C and Unix, and then Java came along, object-oriented, a little bit of C++ before Java. And so Java, I'd say, is a bit of an longer. And also because during the course of it, I was at companies, like say in Chicago, a lot of companies are actually to this day still working with Java, and they are having Java as their runtime, running real enterprise level production systems too. They might be older, but they keep the business running, right? So I say it's more Java. And then also Java too is also a natural language, for a lot of the open source software. Especially like Apache Software Foundation has a lot of things, and they are mostly, a lot of them are written in Java. But then over time, of course, now we know there are also many other language variants and languages, frameworks like Python for a lot of AI, machine learning, or JavaScript, Node, and Ruby, Go, Rust, all of these as well. But I just haven't got a chance, right? Because all those environments I was in were mostly using Java as their runtime. But maybe the only place was Bank of America when I work a bit heavier with Python as well. But I also have had chance to work with .NET, doing some projects too that was more for the customer, they were doing .NET. And so some kind of conversion, and my team, actually, I was managing an offshore team, so they were helping them to do it in .NET as well. So I have some of these other variants, but not like way too much, I'd say.
I see.
So, yeah.
Actually, when I was at the Arc of AI, most of the speakers were on Java World, and that's the first time that I made Java Champions, which you also have that title.
Yeah.
It was so amazing to meet. It's dominantly, I feel like it was Java speakers. Of course, there are other mix, but so it was good to see you can accomplish AI with Java. You don't have to change your tech stack just to keep up with the market. So That's amazing.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, there are also like frameworks that are now catered for doing AI development, right? For example, Spring AI. It's kind of first and foremost. Spring also has AI support now, working with LLMs, and so is like LangChain 4J, for example. Those are kind of a bit more popular framework that works with the current state of AI. Yeah, Quarkus. Two of you also work with that. Quarkus from Red Hat, right? Kind of yeah. So those are kind of the primary ones, but there are also others too. I think there's a Mbabble. Still haven't looked into it yet. So many new things, and then I also got into looking into like Python stuff, right? And then all these other things. It's just too many things to kind of try to get caught up with. So
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I like. So I was seeing your video at TEDx, and Ilonis, you did a speech about the paradox of generative AI. It was
thank
a year
you.
ago. I was seeing, it was amazing, and you're giving this example of people are now trying to be like the machines, and machines trying expected to be like human. So there is this paradox. So if we want to cover that one, we can start from there. Like, what do you think? How is it like from last year? Is there like so many change you can add to the paradox, or you
Sure.
yeah?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So I'd say, right. It is true. For at that time, okay, I should say too, the TEDx that I did was in Illinois, and the University of Illinois. Well, actually, I should say Illinois Institute of Technology. The student club, they hosted this TEDx, which was really excellent. It was such a great event, and invited me to also do a short talk. And at that time, I just started working a bit more with generative AI, and it was still generating a lot of excitement. I think it was in 2024, so a little bit over a year old with LLMs and all of these things. And so that's why I started also trying to understand it. But the thing is, it's true, it's easy to say I start coding and doing whatever it's telling you to do. But I really wanted to say, if I'm doing a TEDx speech, it's not going to be technical. You don't need to explain how to do stuff, but really take a hard look at it to see what it is. And so that's why, I did that talk, and it's also I made it a bit more controversial in a sense, right? The title, is it a paradox? It's like that means it's supposed to do something good, but there are also a lot of kind of controversial, not so good things. And so at that time too, I also have to say I think not just myself, but the industry as a whole, or everybody, we didn't fully quite understand, what implications that might be. And I think the whole world at that time was still trying to understand it deeper. So I think my talk, I decided to do that, which I'm so glad. And a lot of things are still valid, right? Because I also did research, but understanding that, it's again, the Gen AI, the LLMs, right? Large language models are not like what you call, they're not saint, put it that way, right? They are not like, we talk about autonomy in AI, supposed to be, but the fact though, the algorithms and everything, of course I have to admit, I haven't gone too deep into doing model training and all of these things. And of course it follows, the deep neural networks, all of these things too. But a lot of things though, if I summarize it, is essentially, right, the LLMs are not really doing searches, right? I think in a strict sense, right? And of course, if we study computer science, especially when we're computer science in that route, we're trying to do things in a more precise manner, right? We're trained to think like that. Something is more deterministic, right? If you ask as we all know in mathematics principle, if you kind of ask questions, essentially the same question should always give you consistent answers. But then the way LLM works is they are non-deterministic kind of algorithms. Everything is fuzzy logic because they are just based on nearness, right, of all of the data. Like if folks know about vector database, linear algebra, we're doing the matrix math, on all of these vectorized data. So we know that we're just essentially doing pattern matching. Of course, it's very complex, right? We're saying that a whole prompt, even a simple prompt, we need to translate the data into vectorized format, which is essentially strings of floating point numbers, if you want to look into it. So then from there, we can do the matrix math to kind of match up. So in that sense too, I think the way, it is being done and also being so complex became like non-deterministic. So their results coming back is never exactly the same every time. That's why fuzzy logic is not precise. You can always get variance between different calls, and same call, same question, same prompts, you're gonna get different things. So anyway, so my thing I'm just trying to say is that I remember myself talking about that. Don't kind of trust it too much, because as such, the current wave, generative AI especially, it's not about precision, and so don't trust it. But the thing is, though, there are also good cases for it too, right? I like to say a lot of people, I'm sure, like you and me, we all do, when we're asked to write an essay or write something, we'll say, oh, okay, let's just have a ChatGPT generate for us, the text and everything. And it does a reasonably good job, every time, I'd say. So those are the kind of things, you don't need to be the same answers every time you ask the same question in that kind of instances, right? You're doing something more artistic, so to speak, right? You're writing a piece of thing or an essays or generating some music or video. All of these things, they can be off a little bit, the pixel that came out, right? All of these small things. But anyway, my point is saying that there are certainly good use cases to use generative AI, but it's not for everything, right? And if we're going to be doing bank transaction, I suggest not to use that because of the non-deterministic kind of nature. So that's, I remember that was like one of the things that I discussed in my particular talk too. That's still very valid. So yeah.
I actually enjoyed watching it. It was really good. I also watched the one you gave at Developer Summit in optimizing complex workflow.
Oh, yeah.
Giving this comparison, agents, JVM is actually agent.
Yeah.
It's working like that. Then it reminded me another one, for example, for Lambda expression or like this method reference. Sometimes when you're passing, let's say, must or random, you don't know what the JVM is configuring that at runtime, whether it's floating or maybe if it's double. So that's actually context also. So we have this JVM is handling the context on some things on runtime, and also agent acting like agent. So how do you blend in that with the AI? So this is fundamental terminologies, which already JVM was doing it for a while, but when AI is doing it, they're coming back again. So it feels like a pattern.
Can you explain a little better so I don't misunderstand your question? You're saying that it's the JVM is
you're giving an example of how the JVM is also an agent.
Yeah. That's right.
I was giving an example of when you're doing at runtime, for example, when you're passing method reference, usually like the JVM is the one knowing at runtime which method is passing. Is it for the double or is it for floating? So JVM is acting as agent, and it configures the context at runtime even before the LLM. And now LLM has also needs those one explicitly. We need to keep the context clear so that they give us deterministic outputs. And also we build the agentic thing. So the principles are already applied in JVM before.
Oh, okay. I think I might be, if I understand correctly, but okay. So when in my talk optimizing, right, workflow using event-driven kind of way of doing things, and I think I might be talking about, if correct me, right? It's basically I was comparing, saying that agents are not all brand new concepts, and agents. The strict concept is agents is essentially an agent and needing to help you to accomplish a task, is certain goals it needs to try to attain the results. Yeah. And so I was just trying to explain that it's not all brand new, and agents already been in computing studies for a long time, way before the current kind of things too. And so what it is, I use Unix, right, for example, as an example. And basically Unix and then JVM, it is a process, right? It is a process running in the engine itself. But the process itself can be thought of as an agent. It has certain kind of task it needs to accomplish too. And also, too, not only that, there are also like a bit more defined type of smaller kind of focus process would be like daemons, right? In these are like Unix, Linux kind of terms. These are daemon running. They have certain things. Maybe they are accumulating certain kind of metrics. When you boot up your operating system, the daemon needs to be running and collect statistics of certain like logging kind of things, performance and whatever, right? Certain processes running all of these things. So I think maybe that's what I was referring to.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see JVM as an agent before. So I was like, now, because of the LLM and generative AI, the buzzword is like agent, context. So, but JVM is doing that already. So it was an interesting take for me when I see the video. So that's what I was mentioning it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's what I was referring to. Yeah. JVM itself is not really truly agent in a sense. And well, you can think of it abstractly. Yeah, it can be too. But yeah, it has a lot of smaller processes, daemons running to do different things for the JVM because it's an operating system, right? It needs a lot of agents to help it collect statistics or kind of, all these running setting processes and running threads and managing all of the system parameters, things like that, right? I'm just kind of, out of a million things it needs to be doing, but it relies on a lot of small processes to do a lot of different things. And those are sort of like agents in a sense. Yeah. And you can use agent to instrument your code, for example, things like that too. So yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
It was an interesting comparison. So I think
yeah, that's a good question, but thank you. Yeah.
So since 2008, I saw you did in the description for the paradox of generative AI, it says you gave about 500 speeches so far. I was like, oh my God, that is so much. And how was the journey? I don't know if developer advocate's role was as popular as this, like currently is popular, but because maybe I'm closer to the conference world. Before I was not, so I started attending Tech Conference in October. So
yeah,
but you were starting it 2018 at IBM. But was it as popular as currently? It was.
I'd say, interestingly, if you think of advocacy work, is essentially there's another terminology, I guess, kind of describing this type of work is technical evangelist, right? And prior to that, I'd say a lot of product companies, they started realizing, especially marketing folks, they tend to be not having the technical background, but they need people who understand the technology to be able to evangelize, right? Promote it or make it known, kind of more educating the public, that type of stuff. So it used to be technical evangelists. I think their main function is to help, marketing side to do more technical explanation. And then I think over time it kind of expands. And then, the amazing market, I should say, right? It's kind of having kind of funny thing, it comes in waves. Then I think then somehow it came out in about 2000, I'd say probably 2016, 17. Yes, around that time we started hearing about job titles as developer relations and developer advocacy. So I think they start to, often the market realize, we need actually kind of better technical evangelists that can also help the community too. So it's not just talking about technical things, but you're trying to build up community of users around your products. So that's how they think they can increase, number of adoption of their products or buying, of course, for salespeople is somebody buying their products. So I think then, like I said, the whole market, I should kind of a little bit sarcastic, but anyway, have an amazing way of generating a lot of interest in something through their, a lot of talking about it. So that's when developer relations, I think, became like a hot kind of a job opportunity or job types, that came up too. It's more like, to me, if I look at it, it's more like an extension to the original technical evangelism, but getting into also the community space, really forming relationships with developers, because I think they believe the marketing concept was that, okay, we need to build communities of people around our product. So you use the community to also advertise and make known this product to other people as well, to kind of have a bigger reach, kind of like that. So I think that's when we started hearing more about developer relations, and but then I think, unfortunately, because of the way the whole market is going right now, unfortunately, not as good. So somehow the developer relations work, it's never been truly understood properly, in my opinion, because a lot of people thought, oh, they just see developer relations people traveling. Oh, that's a fun job. You travel everywhere. But what they did not know is there's a lot of work. When you travel, it's also very tiresome. I never got any travel agent to book my tickets. I have to book my tickets, and I have to plan, my trip, my itinerary, and I also have to write a status report, and I have to also do my expense reimbursement, right? Expense report. Those, I have to tell you, weekends, that's what I do, expense report, and I'm like, okay, I'm pretty much working a lot, even though you might not say you're working, but it seems like it's fun. I agree. There's a lot of good too. If the person likes to talk with people, if you like to interact with people, is a really good opportunity, interaction, and the social side, and also just primarily having conversations with people. If you like that, right, that kind of extrovert type of side of things, if you like that, it's a good opportunities. But become aware too, there are a lot of require a lot more things. You have to be, you also have to look ahead, right? You need to speak at conferences. You need to watch for what are the conferences you can speak at, or sometimes you get invited, such as you invite me to come and talk. So I have to make sure, I schedule my own thing. I do not have a personal assistant to help me with my schedule. So I do find it can be quite exhausting. And then at IBM, that's what happened. I think I was traveling maybe 90% of the time at the height of it. I was hardly home, and remember, I got home in the morning and evening I have to fly somewhere, which I did. So I had to do laundry and everything. Okay, let me get everything ready, and I have to go to another long trip, for example, things like that. So yeah, so there's also a lot of things too. But of course, if a person enjoys it, it's not so bad. But for some people, they also have made comment to me like, oh, I would be so tired, I wouldn't be able to do that. Or yeah, and I do have to admit, yeah, it's hard to do very deep. And I also have to admit, since I became developer advocate, I actually haven't got time to do more coding, because as you know, coding requires a lot of focus. You need to be no disturbance, and you need to do your design and implement and deploy, trying things out. And of course, it's not as easy, right? Sometimes you're depending on other frameworks, SDK, and they might have problems. You need to sit down and do debugging, right? Sometimes we know how that goes. So it's never very easy, I have to say. So yeah. So it's something. It's interesting, but it's just currently not as many opportunities right now because of the way the things are going. But otherwise, if people like it, this is very good opportunities to meet people. And if you like that, it's very good too. So yeah.
I'm actually surprised when you remember our conversation to do the schedule for today. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Well,
I was about to create the link and send it to you. Then I was occupied, and I was like, I will do it over the weekend. You remembered, and I was surprised.
You know what? Sometimes I have learned that's my own trick. I do not rely on AI to do it for me, and it cannot, right? Because my mind is my own. So whenever I talk to someone, and if you want to do something, I always remind myself, okay, Judith said, let's do it on the week of June or something. So I pencil it in. So that's why when I check, I usually like to check my calendar the weekend before. So then, I have all these things to do, so I don't forget. And so that's why I said, this pencil in. Let me ask Judith, are we on? That's why.
So for me, like few days early on, I usually didn't do like calendar checking before, but now I make sure like to do it. But one weekend before, I didn't reach to that.
I know.
But that's amazing. So how was your first public speaking experience? And how was it like after doing it all? What are the takeaways you did? because you get to learn yourself. When you're on stage, you have to act on unplanned things doesn't go as planned.
Sure.
So you have to learn yourself also. So what did you learn?
Oh, that's a very good question, I'd say, right? Yeah, if I kind of go back to my very first one, I was very, very nervous. And also, too, it wasn't, okay, that was before I became a developer advocate. And I was, back, well, still here, I was just software engineer at that time, a kind of technical architect. And I think, again, being a bit... at a cell phone company here in Chicago. So, but I also started joining what you call those, what? Oh my gosh, what is it called? The Toastmaster. That's right. So my company had Toastmaster, and I remember telling myself, oh, I should kind of practice public speaking. Somehow it was funny, right? And not thinking I would be a speaker, but was funny. And then at the same time, too, there was also starting at that time in 2000, I remember 2016-ish. And then there were starting to have different, events happening. And I started helping Java Users Group. And I really have to attribute to those early days of my involvement with User Group. Because of User Group, there are other opportunities, there are speaking opportunities that I noticed. And there was a specific women's conference. And so I thought to myself, oh, I felt kind of tempted. I was afraid, I should say. And I was like, I never spoke in public. So I thought, well, let me give that a try. And they have, actually at that time, they also had lightning talks, right? So they were opening up for, if you want to become a lightning talk speaker, it's only 5 minutes. And so I remember myself, it's like, oh, should I or should I not? Going back and forth. I never done it, and I'm kind of nervous. But I finally decided, why not? It's kind of conference was promoting women, and that might be a good opportunity. So that's how I started doing that. And lightning talk, I have to tell you, lightning talk were usually 5 minutes, right? 5 to 10. So I remember I was just wanting to share my experience, as a developer, technical person. And to prepare that 5 minutes of talk, I think I took 2 weeks, back and forth, the slide and everything. But nowadays, I sometimes, it was so bad, I should say, not bad, but I'm so used to it. I do something, okay, afternoon, I have something to do. And the day before I do my thing, but of course it's different, right? The day before I already have a similar topic, I can kind of update it for the next day. But of course, if it's brand new, I usually take a few weeks to actually prepare it too. But otherwise too, that time, the very first time, a 5-minute talk took me 2 weeks to prepare, I remember. And I got scared too. I remember it was shaking. It's kind of funny. I think it was recorded. You reminded me I should try to look for it.
Yeah, let me know if you have it. I'd like to see that.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm actually a proud member of Toastmaster. I'm a vice president there, and I joined in October, and I've changed a lot, being articulate. Of course, there's some things to practicing it better, but there's change.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So and exactly. So that's so wonderful. Yes, I encourage everybody to, and that's what I find, right? It's so important these days, and anything you do, even if it's technical work, even though traditionally technical people tend not to like to speak, that's seems to be attracting a lot of folks that are more introvert. But the thing is, though, to become, so to speak, more successful, or at least being recognized of your work, you need to be able to communicate. That's very important. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, Toastmasters is a good way to practice speaking in front of people. Yeah. and that's wonderful. You are helping not only with Toastmaster, you're also helping with AI Collective in Dallas area, right? Yeah. That's great.
Actually, I heard it from your speech. Your presentation was amazing. It was kind of a fire chat. It was cozy, and it was really good. Then you mentioned you're looking for the Dallas chapter. There's more people needed. Then you say, then you did the introduction. It was just like that. Then we hosted our first event.
Great.
Last month, and 22 people showed up. They did pitch. Nice. Then we're planning for the second follow-up event, and I think June 23rd. Okay. But so how was it the selection of leaders? We just have that interaction we didn't know before, but then you see the potential and you be I want to introduce this person. How do you select people? And you manage the American, you say North American, South
North
America,
America.
Central America. So
North
that's like
America.
you have to do a lot of recruitment.
Yeah,
Manage. How do you time allocate and effectively lead?
sure. So I'd say the very first thing is you notice the person is very eager, and also you are willing, right, to really spend time on, as you know, right, as volunteer doing user community. Sometimes it's just a lot of work that are small things, like even like up down to, buying some food or drinks and all that. And so first of all, is the person have to be prepared, right? It's not just about coming out and talk and introduce and do an event. It's all of these small things, and there are folks asking you questions, and you have to answer them. So anyway, so you asked me how I would know. Sometimes I think just after working with a lot of people, you can sort of tell if somebody is eager to want to do that, and they start coming. And of course, I think it's always good too if there's a chance to have the person come and start helping. And and then you can observe, right, to see if the person is actually, if they really mean what they mean. Sometimes people might come, they just thought, oh, this looks like fun, I'll do, but then after one time they just, oh, this isn't for me, like that, right? You can sort of tell when people are truly mean it. They actually will continuously, they'll come for more events, or having more conversations, so that type of stuff. So that's how we try to retain or kind of accept folks who are showing interest and also willing to help. And yes, we all know a lot of volunteer, you're volunteering your time too. So if you see people kind of repeatedly helping out, then that they might be a good candidate for it too. But it's always good to have some initial time period to let the person kind of prove themselves, so to speak, right? Demonstrate that they actually are up to the challenge of doing this type of work. It's not like very difficult in a lot of ways, right? But it's just the commitment, the dedication that's we are looking for. So yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you did two communities, the Java User Group of Chicago and also AI Collective. You're like regional leader, like North America, South America, and Central America. So that's huge.
Yeah.
In making sustainable growth, in making it stay longer, it needs a lot of strategy. And I wonder how your strategy is, how it's going.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, with Chicago Java Users Group, I have to say, because it's very language specific type of group, right? Technical group is a bit of a niche. I don't even know if I have a strategy right now, because I think a lot of focus too of a lot of developers, especially, that they are not necessarily focusing on just single language, right? And they are interested maybe more AI, I have to say. So not like I have any strategy, so to speak, but I like to still keep those who are still wanting to be involved or connected with us, to be in the thing. So obviously too, we have Luma. We use Luma now for our events. So we try to too. There are also other community people trying to advertise their events and that type of stuff. We invite people to continuously subscribe, and so they can get notified, right, if there are events and things like that. I say, yeah, I guess your question is about the strategy. I suppose I think it's just more like, there are opportunities. And not only that, of course, I totally forgot, we also have like a Discord server in which, folks can still stay connected outside of events too, and they can be talking. And I still have a good group of people on my Discord server to be talking. Sometimes, not talking every day, but still, I know people are there, because sometimes when I post something, they might respond back if it's interested in things. So I think, the key is to make sure to stay responsive and connected with people. That's kind of like my way of doing things. So that's more with Chicago Java Users Group. But I also try to, and I have to say I'm lucky. There are some speakers too. For example, you met some of them, the Java community. It's such a warm community. I have to say it's like one of the best. I'm very fortunate, I feel, to be connected with this Java community that's not only US based, right? There's also international based, a lot of them in Europe as well, and some Africa. Asia, not as many, but there are some in India, for example, some South America. So all of us are everywhere, and we're such a close knit group, and very, very nice to everybody if anybody wants to join too. So I think it's kind of nice. And then and because of that, we stay connected and help each other out too. It's like a big, huge family. Whenever we go to conferences, like VanCat has the Arc of AI, but sometimes we have the big ones, right? That we go to, we kind of all come together like that too. So it's kind of a good way. We try to also connect, if people are interested, right, to connect with the larger community. So once you feel you're like a larger community, you really don't want to leave. It's again like a family, together. And then not only that, now I'm with AI Collective, and that's also a completely different kind of thing. It's more about AI. There are lots of also non-technical people, right? Not developers. I'm not talking about the traditional developers, because it's interesting. We talk about AI. A lot of people come out and say I'm a developer, or they are more like I'm builder, because they're using vibe coding, right? They don't have the necessary background. Okay, fine, fair enough. You can actually vibe code, and so it's kind of interesting. So there are lots of different, kind of people, and they are trying to use AI and all these other things, and maybe they also need help with technical stuff too when it comes to serious development, right? So anyway, there are also occasions in which I'm organizing events that I have both community together as well. So I bring them together. Yeah. So I do that. For example, next week, actually, we have Bruno Borges from Microsoft, and he's also a Java person, and he's coming to Chicago. We'll do talk about GitHub Copilot. And so I'm going to have both the community come together, and they can all, everyone, anybody from either community. Some people are in both community too, so which is kind of nice too. So we try to also have this kind of inter communities events together. Yeah, bring people together as well. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm hoping too that Java community will still stay kind of active. And I do believe so. There, a core group of people are quite good. Kind of constantly be responsive too. So that's I'm thankful. So yeah.
That's amazing. So when you say the early development time, the male to woman proportion was not as big. And I was actually seeing Arc of AI speaker collection. It was 5 female only.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, is it keeping up or different factors, of course, but how do you see like the proportion compared to the early days of your career and now?
Sure. I have to say, I didn't know. Thank you for giving me that statistics. I didn't even count how many. Yeah, I knew there was.
I did double check too. But yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you. Wow, I was hoping for more actually, but of course, sometimes it all depends too. I think, how do I keep track? I don't know. There are certainly some conferences that I realize that are more, maybe the balance is a bit more balanced, maybe more women than men. I'm not sure. That's very interesting. Only 5. So I think the rest are like 30 men or something, right? 5 women maybe. So
the
kind
speakers,
of speakers, right? Yeah, that's I'm not sure. I think, well, although I have to say, VanCat's conference, he's definitely based on merit, right? It's sort of the program committee coming together, just select the topic and all these things. So that might be how it resulted in the makeup of the men versus women speakers ratio. But there are some that I know of. They intentionally, they would say we're trying to attract more women speakers, or some that are more lesser advantaged, and groups and of people too. So again, it all depends, right, on that conference, how the organizing team want to kind of set up their conference. So so I can't speak for all, but I think most of them are definitely a lot better than it used to, right? In the early days, I think, well, when I was speaking, there were also, it's never too many women, that I have to admit, even like all over the world, it seems to be the case, except if it is like a women-based conference, which nowadays there are more. And you obviously, in that case, there are also men speakers, but it's just the conference itself is catered more for the women, the female audience. But they welcome men as well. But then in those cases, then you get an overwhelming number of women speakers. Yeah, then women. So so I think it all depends. Yeah. So yeah.
How about in the enterprise world? Do you see any change from earlier time?
Enterprise. I think. Well, I have to admit, I haven't been to as many like enterprise kind of focused ones, but if I kind of recall, I seem to see a good mix maybe or something. But again, it goes back to, depending on that particular conference. But it's for sure, I'm seeing more women than it, when I first came out speaking is what I feel. So, yeah.
Awesome. So from the recent Java new features, what do you think is like underrated or you like it more? Do you have any preference if you experiment with the new versions?
Yeah, okay. Well, I actually have to admit, because I haven't been as, closely coding, right? So I have not checked the latest Java 26, I have to say.
Oh, I'm 21, 25.
21. Okay, yeah. But I know the latest is 20. So I haven't been as good in getting into all the nuts and bolts. However, I think for me, though, I was always very excited with virtual threads. So, so that's something. I have still have yet to find time if I could, do some prototyping or something too. But I haven't actually heard too many talks as it was for a while when virtual threads was being developed and everything. There seemed to be more talk earlier. And then since it came out, I think it's Java 21, right, when it officially the virtual threads. And so I need to kind of check on it to see. But I know too, I was extremely interested in virtual threads, and because I was also doing some concurrent programming for a bit, and just to more experimental at that point. So I'm always interested in that topic too, like concurrency, threading, and event driven, and those are kind of my area. I like that type of computing somehow. Like it's more challenging. It's like the compute kind of thing. I think I remember when I was in college, I really enjoy when it gets to this level of coding, parallel computing, and things like that. That's always excites me. So yeah, yeah. Thank you.
For the people who want to join for development, do you think there is still room, or what kind of strategy should they use so that they can stay longer if they want to in progress?
Sure. I think, I like to, and that's actually very excellent question, especially with you, Yodit. Maybe you also have a lot of friends, from the university. I like to encourage folks, especially when you're in computer science, and just don't give up, because I know it's been not very encouraging, right now with the number of job opportunities out there. And I feel it's only like a temporary thing, because right now, a lot of companies seem to believe that they don't need as many coders because of AI agents. I mean, honestly speaking, I started looking into agents doing like vibe coding, all of these, as maybe some of you are aware. It's not nearly as capable as it claims to be. Like I can use vibe coding easier to generate a website, more like a jump start to get something. But when I need something more customized, I actually need to code it up myself. So what I'm trying to say is that, it can do some things well, don't get me wrong. And some of the things, if you know exactly, it can jumpstart well. But the thing is, we know the world is not like a cookie cutter place, right? We have a lot of, use cases that are specific to, many different, a million, infinite number of application kind of scenarios. So we can't simply have the agents be able to do everything. And besides, there's no true AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and in which agents can reason things, right? We know LLM cannot reason things. It doesn't even know can tell right from wrong. There's no moral judgment, all of these very controversial type of things. And not only that, people are vulnerable who are using it, thinking it is right? Those are kind of things we need to really pay a lot of attention to. So given that, so I'm just trying to say, right now the world might think, because they are short-term thinking, oh, I want to generate a lot of profit, I don't need a lot of people. But guess what? Eventually they realize, oh, I need the system to do this and that, and it's more complicated. And guess what? Most people are not trained like we do, right? I'm assuming you're technical people with computer science development background. And only people who are trained will understand how database would work, how the data flow among different network boundary, things like that, distributed computing, concurrency. All these require all of the, deep training that only when we have taken classes, we have done experiment and coding to understand that. So I think eventually too, the world will realize we need that. Even if you're designing an AI to do that, it needs to understand how it works before you can design something that the agent can learn properly, right? And not only that, it has the non-deterministic nature. Things come out wrong all the time, hallucinations, we hear about it. And not only that, actually, interesting. Yesterday, I saw an article about California public school system, public universities. They spend a lot of money on OpenAI, doing AI project implementation, and it's a disaster. I think it's just reflecting either people not truly understanding it, thinking it and do some things and it doesn't come out the way it is, or it's just simply the current state of AI is not as scary or scarily capable as it is. Although the scary part is it may do something wrong that can hurt people, right? All those things, it require then people with judgment, with true depth of knowledge to understand how that works and make the correction, right? Or whatever. So to me, I feel like talking to your generation of developers and computer people, just hang on to it, right? And one of these days, the world is going to wake up, I think very soon. They realize we need actually real people who understand, have the experience to do this. And just, I think that's how the world will come to be. They may become embarrassed to come to us because at one point they might say, go away. And now they're like, oh, we don't know what we're doing. We make a big mess. So we need you. So that's my thinking, right? And also too, in the meantime, right, I think when we have time, do more, experimentation, do the prototypes to prove it that we know better how things work. We can build things that work better, right? And just be prepared, right? By the time, when the world comes back to us and say we need your help, then we'll be ready. So so just don't give it up. Yeah, right now is a temporary craziness going on, I think. Yeah. So
that's a great advice.
Yeah.
So it's during your work span of the years, what was the challenge you faced, and did it help you develop your character? How did you manage to pass it? Or if you don't have it, so you can say pass, I don't have it.
Oh, no. I think it's actually an excellent question, too. I do have to say, in my very beginning of my career, I was actually nervous, right? It's like anybody has this imposter syndrome, thinking I'm not as good as others. And I think that's part of it is because, for example, I grew up with a brother who actually is very intelligent, well, very smart. I shouldn't say intelligence is different. He's not very smart in some sense, but he's very, very talented, God-given talent to know how things work. A lot of times I really have to learn how it works internally. He already knows it's his God-given talent, right? Okay, so then it makes him more intimidating. And in fact, he was so terrible at treating me. I'm a younger sister, 3 years younger. And then, I was in, I think, elementary school. He was just high school. And I remember asking him, how do I do some math or something? And he was like, no, I'm not going to tell you because girls don't understand something. He made comment. So it was terrible, but I got scared. And I remember myself under the dark shadow of his comment for a long time, thinking that, oh, I'm not as good, all these, because he's very smart, in this God-given talent. But I have to say that nowadays it's different because, of course, I also went through times too. There were times in which I doubt myself, all these things. But, but it's amazing how things work out. Eventually, I learn, get more mature, all of these things. You look at the whole world differently, right? After you mature, you just plow through things, whatever. And so I feel that, it certainly at the very beginning was more not so sure. But again, just like anything else, don't let it stop you from achieving your goals. I think that's what I would say, and then that's what actually one thing I learned about is, we tend to be like nervous about other people judging us, right? But the thing is, so what? Now as I become mature, I look back, I'm thinking, we have limited time on earth. We have to do what we need to do. I'm just going to do what is right. To me, I think it's more important to recognize, the truth, do what is right, and really be a good person and follow your dreams, do what is good. And if you don't know, you don't know. Just be authentic and be a good person. I think you will achieve what you want to achieve. I think, and just don't do bad things, essentially, right? And just be a good person, and you can achieve what you want to be, is what I believe. So yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice, because I too feel imposter syndrome and being intimidated in technical environments. So that's a good one. I hope it will go away.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Thank you.
So is there like any plan to do AI Collective conference, bringing all the people together around the world, or it would be too much?
Yeah. You mean AI Collective? Well, the organization is just a grassroots organization, and it's just all the chapters, run by volunteers everywhere. But as of now, there isn't any like a central concerted effort to say run a conference. Not that I know of. So it's just individual chapters doing events, right? And we just had the Humans in AI Week last week. So individual chapters do certain things, and it was a campaign. So if you're aware of that. So, but yeah, not like a centralized type of thing. Although I have kind of I've thoughts of doing something in the Midwest, right? I live in Chicago, but there are a couple chapters nearby in the Midwest, like Detroit or Indiana. Indianapolis doesn't have a chapter yet, but I know people ask about it. And then, so Michigan, Indiana, or maybe Ohio, I like to come together and have some kind of a small conference. And that's what I like to do, but maybe more regional level, not international or national level. That's what we're thinking. Yeah. So
that's amazing. We actually do have one guest, Alexandro from Brazil. So he's saying hello. Yeah. That's amazing. So is there anything you'd like to say at the end? Maybe some conclusion, or people can take away one thing from this conversation?
Yeah. I think for me, I feel like, I'm assuming, right, folks are maybe more from the studying like yourself, you did. If you are students, right, again, don't feel too sad about this current situation. I know a lot of students are graduated, and when you try to look for jobs, and don't give up. Just to me, try to look for a community in your local area if possible. And then of course I'm also there too, and I have my Discord server. If you really need information, reach out. Maybe I can connect you with some folks in your area. Form some communities, right? Everybody, maybe if you're an open source person, right, maybe work on a project or two together, and take this time to also learn stuff. Don't just like sit and say, why is life not fair? Just take the opportunity, learn as much as you can, and be ready when you'll be called upon to help solve some big problems. Yeah, so I think that's what I feel I can suggest. So
amazing. Yeah, I do have industry experience too. I got laid off last year. Then I got to be involved with communities. There's one called Commit Your Code, and there's like 13,000 Discord members. And it's really helped me with being current with the informations, doing support with them. And I'm actually going to speak for the first time at this conference.
Congratulations.
Wonderful. But it's really helping me. I'm active with the Java Mug for the Dallas chapter too.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm glad. So glad to hear. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I know in some cases, some people want to become a founder yourself too. Yeah, that also is good. Yeah. So that's great.
We actually got another audience, Yusuf.
Sure.
Yusuf. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Mary.
Thank you.
To meet.
Thank you. Thank you
for the opportunity for the AI Collective. I'm growing in working towards next to Naveen. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Yodit. Thank you again to everyone who joined us live. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, stay connected. Yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Okay, bye. Bye. All right. Yeah, good. Are we still live or we're good? Yeah.
I